What's up, guys? I know it's been a while since I posted anything, but last few months I kind of moved to a bigger shop, have been pretty busy. I still use my shop at home some, and that's kind of why I'm going to start videoing again, because right now I have this supercharged S550 and I have this notchback Foxbody, and I just got a new prime welder. So I ordered, this is a multi-process, but it's the MiG 285. Up until now, I've mainly just had my good TIG welder, and I had a shitty little Lincoln. And for this project, I don't want to use the Lincoln, so I decided I'd order something proper. But anyway, this is a customer car, so I'll kind of get to finish my 70 build on somebody else's dime and get paid for it, because I did run out of money to finish that car, so I sold it. But what I'm planning on doing is the interior, engine, trans, everything from this car is going in the Foxbody. And I believe I'm going to use the firewall in part, if not all, of the floor pan out of this one out here. I've had this car for a few years and hadn't really used it for anything. It was wrecked in the front. I was kind of thinking about solid axle swapping it, but anyway, it'll be perfect for what I'm wanting to use it for, which is the donor floor pan, and I won't have to cut up that good shell. So from here on out, the goal was to have this car done by, not done, so it'll be running and driving hopefully by like October 1st, because he wants to take it to cruising the coast and then drop it back off to finish up some of the small stuff. Here's what's left of the S550. I just kind of got it suspended by a board because I'm going to set it on my trailer. And I just pushed that Foxbody a long way, so I'm breathing hard. However, I still have the, pretty much all the factory structure. I'll come in here, clean up the rockers, and then build like a tube frame. So that was kind of what I wanted to do with this car anyways, so this just kind of worked out for the best. So I'm gonna get this out of here, get the Foxbody in here, and we'll get started on getting it ripped apart. All right, so I did drill those, but I ended up air hammering most of this out. It made it so much faster. But anyway, this is the factory, entered. So I learned with the 70 not to cut out more than I needed. So I don't doubt I'm going to have to end up, doing something with this cowl, because it's just way deeper than the S550. But as of right now, I'm leaving it, because obviously the dash is going to sit flush about here. Well, I'll say that. Actually, I could push the dash forward into that. I don't know. We'll figure that out later. But so both rockers, I got to come in here, fill a couple little holes, smooth it out. I straightened up the pinch welds. They had been bent over the years. I mean, that's common, especially if you lift it by one side by a jack or something. But yeah, I mean, right now you could come in here and put a brand new factory floor pan in here, no problem. I even left the lip on the rear seat, because I don't know exactly how I'm going to tie that in yet. But so far, pretty happy with it. This is 3 days of work, not too bad. And then of course I saved the strut towers over there, which will get welded back into this. No big deal. But yeah, now really I need to just start shortening up and thinning this firewall and floor pan out here. And I can go ahead and start getting that thing fitted. Alright, so I got the light off just so you can tell better. All I did was find the center line of the S550 firewall. Funny enough, there's like a factory weld right there in the center. Then I found the center of the Foxbody, marked both, and then I set my laser up. So as you can see now, really, I mean, for that to be centered, I'm gonna have to cut here, which the airbox works fine, so that's all good. I have to cut, right there. I did measure and cut, but it didn't quite. This side obviously is pretty close, but so it looks like I'll be removing most from that side. I don't want it to be off left to right, so that's got to be center. And it's really not rocket science. It's isn't like that hard. Time consuming, sure, but like realistically, if you can run a grinder and use a MIG welder, you could do this. It's not that bad. I think this is day 4. So I've cut 2 cars up and not got that fitted. So the good thing is once that is fit in there, everything I unbolt out of the S550 will just bolt in. So to me, this is a lot less time consuming than trying to make everything fit It's a whole hell of a lot easier, less time consuming than a body swap. So for everybody wondering, this is the route to go. Alright, so I kind of got it raised back up right now, but I did drop it down even lower, and I think this is going to work super well. There is going to be this overhang from the original cowl, you know, to where like the S550 firewall is going to sit. But I'm not too concerned with that because you'll have the engine and everything else sitting back there. I believe the factory windshield wipers are going to work right there, which will be sweet. I got some more trimming to do. It does look like it's going to sit perfectly flush. I say perfectly flush, but like the floor pan is going to sit flush in there versus like say the body swap where it's not like that. You got the big rocker kind of hanging down. It's not going to have any of those issues. It's actually going to set the engine back like 3 inches. So you lose a little bit of your back seat space, but overall you're going to end up with a better driving car and a whole lot nicer car. But everything, you know, pretty much fits pretty well. Like I said, I still have some trimming to do, but and then more or less this firewall is going to meet up like up here, and then you just end up with all that space. So I still got some cutting and cleaning up in here to do, but for 3 days of work, I'm pretty happy with it, and I'm a lot more happy as far as how this is starting to line up and look in comparison to a body swap. Alright, so I pretty much have this, I think, where I want it. So it is going to sit a couple inches back from the factory firewall, which I think will be just fine. It's actually going to move the engine back, which is a positive. Here's my center line. It's dead on with that. I've checked the chassis left to right. It's level, as is the floor pan. So about right here is what we end up with. I mean, for a bunch of rough cuts, that's pretty damn close. So I believe what I'm going to do is use a piece of angle like I talked about to come in here and more or less take up the gap, and that'll be super strong. It'll be structural. It'll give it the lip. This is just going to meet up to the factory rear floor pan. Of course, I did lose some of the back floorboard, so if you want to put somebody back here, it's going to slide the seat up. But man, and the coolest part is, in comparison to a body swap, is look at this. Oh yeah, nothing hanging down, just like a factory S550, really. I mean, look at that. So I think this is going to work out really well. Okay, so what I'm doing now is I've got the car leveled on the lift. You know, I don't have a frame machine, so it is level. And I've tack welded the pinch welds to the lift so it can't move. And I went ahead, I don't mind drawing on the floor, but in case I want to do something else in the future, I just put some tape down. And so what I'm using is, since we have the rear suspension, is I'm using the center of the pinion as basically the center of my chassis point in the rear. And I'm going to pull off the firewall for, well, probably the middle of the, you know, the top, not the frame rails, but the fender aprons that I haven't cut, or, you know, nothing's been moved, so they'll be in line, you know, like the original Fox. So I've dropped a plumb bob and I've marked it there on the tape. And I'm gonna drop a plumb bob off the front here, same deal, mark it, and then I'm gonna line them up with a laser, and that'll give me the chassis center line. And once I have the chassis center line, I'll be able to basically triangulate the rear subframe, just so, you know, I know which way it's kind of sitting, because the car may not be perfectly straight on the lift. It may be sitting kind of cockeyed. So, you know, I'll have the center line. I'll be able to measure that off of it and see if it's in or out of line with the chassis, which that's using the factory pickup points. There's not really much. It's a Cobra IRS. There's not really much I can do if the subframe is off back there. Then that's also how I'm going to set the front subframe to determine where it needs to be when I build the frame rail. So the big thing is, you know, if the floor pan and the chassis is off just ever so slightly, stuff like that's not going to show up unless you base your suspension measurements off of that. So I'm not doing that. This thing will drive perfectly down the road. Any little variance in the floor pan and the chassis, you'll never know it because it's just along for the ride. So, and for the front, I'd already marked that center, just kind of taking the same measurement. So just to verify, it's 51 inches, so 25 and a half. And then basically I just tied the plumb bob to that level, and that's it. So now I'm going to connect those two with my laser and then just draw a straight line. And that'll be the chassis center line. Alright, so working on the Foxbody again. I went ahead and plated up the frame rails, which I'm going to build the front frame rails off of out of 2x3. I decided to pull the tape up because it was just I didn't want any chance of anything moving. So I went ahead and, so I'm going to run a chalk line, but so far I've just made a mark in the front and then in the rear. For now, I went ahead and set up a plumb bob on both sides, mainly just so I could make sure I was 100%, you know, from this axle center line. And I'm going to do a chalk line across, and then that's, you know, same thing on this side. I mean, it's dead on the center. And then I'll measure forwards from this line to the front. The wheelbase of a stock Foxbody is 100.5 inches. So that's where I'll do my front line across, and that's where the subframe will kind of get lined up from and all that. And I'll line the frame rails, I'll square those off the center line of the car. Alright, so pop that center line, pop the side lines, came back, rehung the plumb bobs, and we're there, dead center. So, like I said, this will be basically what everything is squared off of, will be this center line right here, which is the center line of the Foxbody chassis itself. I did just pop the left and right lines, you know, of old marks. They're a little bit off, so, which is kind of why I re-verified this, but I think we're all good as far as our center line. For the sake of everything fitting, I decided to use either the S197 or the S550 subframe, so that's what I've started drilling the holes for. But anyway, so I've taken a bunch of measurements with the subframe from different points to the rear suspension. I also measured from the front control arm pickup points down and then to like my front axle center. So I've taken a bunch of measurements and everything's within 1/8 of an inch as far as being square. Plus I'll probably have a little bit of take up in these. So my steel yard will only sell you 20-foot pieces of stock. So regardless of what you get, you got to buy the entire piece. So in the past I've used like galvanized pipe, stuff like that. But I was kind of going through Lowe's yesterday just looking for something that would work for like the pass through here. And they had these black steel pipes. I think they were like $4 a piece. So what I've done is I've cut them flush on bottom. I'll TIG weld that. I'll cut it flush on top, TIG weld this. And those will basically be, you know, to keep the frame rails from crushing. But so I've got the rails built. I am going to come in and box them. That's why I box these to the frame, and then I'm going to box these to that. So it'll be super strong. I know the S550, you know, firewall and stuff is sitting, you know, a couple inches further back, but these are realistically the same length as what like the Foxbody ones would have been. So the plan is still to put the strut towers back in here and kind of see how that goes. But worst case, I may do like a dual A-arm setup, but you know, I don't doubt I'll be able to get the strut towers to work. A friend of mine sent me some measurements, so I have all the measurements as far as how to locate them. But yeah, still just kind of ticking away at this. The plan is going to be to run the S197 or S550 subframe and adapt it to take the Foxbody control arms, or adapt the Foxbody ball joint to like the S197 control arms, either or. Because I do know basically where the center of my control arm is like 4 inches off my axle center line. So either way, the control arm, which if you notice, like the Foxbody control arms are rotated forwards. So that may be, you know, part of the reason why I can't use the S197 arm. But either way, I haven't got that far yet. I've been worried about getting this squared up, which I have, and now it's just kind of building it together. Okay, so what I've decided to do was I ended up using an entire S197 subframe with the lower control arm. This does extend the track width, you know, a little bit. And what I've done is taken the S197 knuckle, which is here, and I've modified that ear mount and then drilled the holes out to 5/8 so it'll bolt straight to the Foxbody suspension. Here's the Foxbody knuckle beside it. There's not, you know, there's some difference in the two, like the offset of the lower ball joint to the control arm. Not the control arm, I'm sorry. The ball joint to the strut. That affects trail, whereas like the S197 is straight in line. So stuff like, in my opinion, the bearing center also affects trail, but the top strut mount and all that, it all comes into play. I don't know, I haven't measured what's what. I just know I like the way these drive. And then what I've been seeing from bolting it on the car is I like this geometry a lot better. So basically what it's going to be is S197 subframe and knuckle and control arm bolted to the Foxbody strut and the Foxbody strut tower. Alright, so here it is bolted on, and I've just recently built a motor in a Coyote swap Foxbody, and the kind of the way it was done with a lot of the off-the-shelf parts you can buy, none of it really fit together that well. The subframe was spaced down like 4 inches. The lower control arm angle was terrible. It was uphill like that, so the roll center was all over the place. So what I've done with this is went ahead and I've raised the subframe up some, which right now, you know, with that at full extension, it's at a pretty crazy angle, but these are really soft springs. I don't know if they were like going to set it up to drag race or whatever, but so once there's weight in the front, it should compress a decent amount. Then of course, I'll be able to lower it a little bit with that. However, I've fixed the roll center angles. Even if we're a little bit, you know, tilted downhill at ride height, that's totally fine. In my opinion, like this, you know, but for me, everything kind of looks really good with this, as good as it can, you know, with the kind of the crazy strut angle you get with these Foxbodies, especially with a little bit wider stance in the front. But everything I see here just from looking, I think this thing is going to drive a whole lot better than a stock Fox does. And then of course, you know, we got some caster in there, so should be a super nice driving car. Okay, so I'm working on finishing up the front suspension now. Basically all I did was I took, had everything, you know, straight. The lower control arm is OEM geometry. The tops I have set in the same exact location, and all I did was use my angle gauge on each side. And I don't know if that moved a little bit, but anyway, when I tack welded this, which I got to take it off, preheat it, and then fully TIG weld it, 78.6 was identical on both sides, which is about, what, -12 degrees of camber. So I believe what I'm going to do to fit the wheels on this car without it being like wide body, it's going to have some camber like that. But to adjust that out, I thought about making a plate here with a slot, so you know it'd have to be at an arc. That way you could adjust camber at the knuckle, but the tire would just sit really far out right now. So that's not my main concern at the moment. But yeah, anyway, no jig, nothing like that. I kind of just use the car as my jig. And yeah, that's it. Alright, so I kind of got the Foxbody sitting here. This side has a little too much camber. I think it's about -7 degrees. The other side's got about -5. That might be a little too much for my liking even. This side doesn't look too bad though. I like it. I think with the right wheels, this stance would be killer. Of course, all this is just sat here. But check that out. So all I did was I slotted the coilover for camber adjustment on both sides. So it can adjust. I mean, it can adjust, you know, because of where the strut towers are for the Foxbody, you do have the coilover like that. So there's room for it to adjust all the way out to 0. You know, say in the future if he goes wide body or whatnot, because I don't know if he really cares for the camber. So, but it will have to have a lot wider in the front, probably about 1 inch, 1.5 inches to clear. And most of that's probably because the lower control arm, you know, is the track width's wider on the S197. But you have a whole lot better geometry like this. I don't know if you can see it, but that is the roll center, which we're still downhill, and that's actually fine, but we don't have the engine weight in the car. So I don't know, most of you guys, if y'all followed Foxbodies, you see them kind of lowered. That control arm angle is generally like downwards, and your roll center is like way below the ground, so you got to run super stiff springs, because with a roll center like that, the car has more leverage over the spring. So this is more of what you would expect and like to see from like a properly set up front suspension, in my opinion. The crazy thing is I eyeballed a lot of that. Of course, I made sure everything was straight to chassis center line. Then of course check some angles here or there, but for the most part, I don't know, I've kind of just I'm able to like see just from looking at stuff about where it's going to end up, and so far so good as far as when it comes to doing stuff like this, because that is damn near perfect. I feel like once the engine's in it, those control arms will be pretty much level. And anyways, I think that'll be it for this video. It's actually a pretty good bit, and I may just kind of wait till I got a whole lot more done for the next one. Instead of trying to do like 8, 9, 10 parts, maybe just do 2 or 3 and get it done with. So thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.